my name is Laura Alvarez. I was born in Valencia, Spain, and in 2009 I moved to the Bronx. It was my first time ever in New York, and I met somebody in Spain a couple of years back, and we fell in love. We thought that was it, so I packed 2 suitcases, left my job, and came to New York. And he did the same from Puerto Rico. He was born in the Bronx, but he lived his whole life in Puerto Rico, so I ended up here.
Can you say a little bit what do you do or what do you like the Bronx? I mean, you can put either.
Okay, so I think I can start saying that I did study fine arts back in Spain and in England, and I never really worked or did anything related to the fine arts that I studied because I did graphic design until I came to New York. But when I came to New York, I was like, I don't feel like doing that anymore. So I was 30 by then, and I started a new career. Basically, I brought with me watercolors and pencils, and that's what I did for 9 months that I was waiting for my green card to arrive, besides some freelance job with computer and stuff. So by the end of all that waiting, I decided that I wanted to do art again. And so that was like a renewal for me in my career. And after a while, I started getting very involved with community grassroots organizations in the Bronx. I founded a couple of them, and I worked a lot with the community. And that connection between art and community was something that I could use for myself to understand better where I was living and to not change, but like to promote a healthier lifestyle than I saw that people in the Bronx were having. Like connection with nature for me was very, very important back in Spain, and here people doesn't feel like nature belongs to them. And parks and like going out and walks, and so I started creating murals in parks, and that was a life-changing moment for me. And then I started doing murals in other places. And so I think that's the connection that I created between my old self and my new self in the Bronx.
So really you feel that moving here, it really changed your life?
Oh yeah, totally. Like moving to the Bronx totally changed not only my life, but my perception of myself too. Because, how to say it, I never felt like at home anywhere. When I was studying, when I lived in England, I hated it. British people are very, very unique. I don't know, I never had like a core group of friends that I said, oh, this is it, that's my people, and I will do anything for them. I was like, yeah, I live here, I work there, I do this, I do that, but it wasn't like my true self. I feel that coming to the Bronx, it changed the perception that I had of myself, not thinking much of myself, into something that I can do whatever I want. Do I want to do art? I can do art. My whole life, everybody told me that, oh yeah, study fine arts, but you're never going to work about it. Like you're always going to do something else because you're going to be a starving artist. And in Spain, I did have to have 2 jobs to survive. So here, I also had 2 or 3 jobs, but I was doing something that I really enjoyed, not serve like waiting tables.
What do you think that art brings to you, to your life?
I think art brings to my life. Like I don't think I can live without art right now. It's my way of processing whatever is happening around me. It's my way of coping with whatever is happening around me. So I think I need it for me in order to be sane and to be able to function every day and to create those connections between reality and my life. I'm a person, I have a very easy way of blocking things in my brain. Bad things happen, and give me a couple of weeks. I most likely won't be able to tell you what happened exactly because my brain blocks it. And the way of doing it, I think, is processing it, is creating something. It might be painful, I might be crying while doing it, but then I can just like, okay, now it's done. Get over with and just move on with your life.
What do you like of the Bronx?
I think what I like about the Bronx is that it's very diverse, but it's accepting. So you can come from different backgrounds and you can have different cultures and different ways of looking at things. But at the end, in the Bronx, most of the people, I'm not saying everybody, but most of the people is very accepting, and they accept you as you are, and that gives you the opportunity to be yourself. So I think that's what I like the most about the Bronx, and how diverse it is, and how many cultures you can get connected through just by living here.
What does diversity mean to you?
Diversity is things that are different from what I grew up with. Like, I grew up in a post-Franco Spain that I think I was in high school the first time somebody that it wasn't from Spain came into one of my classrooms. And it was Mohammed from Morocco. So I think that lack of diversity in the people that surrounds you, it is a step back in order for you to gain more openness of thinking about life and what you can do, what you can do. So I guess I instead of knowing a lot of people growing up that was from different backgrounds, what I did is I traveled a lot when I was from 16 up. Every time I had 2 jobs or 3 jobs because I spent, my main job was to pay rent and all that stuff you have to pay to live, and then everything else was for traveling. So in here you don't have to travel to meet all those people. And you can have like in 2 streets up is all Ghana, and then you go into Bangladesh, and then 2 streets up you go to China. It's like having the whole world in your hand or in a neighborhood, maybe.
No, so I think maybe the right question will be, what do you think that diversity brings?
Okay, yeah. So I think diversity brings that you look at the world with an open mind, because when you're stuck in only one thing, I think people thinks that that's the right thing. And I don't think there's a right way of doing things or looking at the world in one way. Like the same way that we might think white is for a wedding, in other places white is for a funeral. Or red we think is for Christmas, and then in other places red is for a wedding. So you can't assume that everybody everywhere in the world, everything is the same. But unless you experience that and you see it happening, it's much more difficult to understand. And I think that way of seeing other people doing things that you're like, wait a minute, why are they doing that? And you can ask and interact, and they can explain to you what's not happening. That's what diversity means. Is you open your mind into something that is completely different from whatever you expected from life. So I guess I have used being a woman in my advantage sometimes, and some other times it's been a struggle. But I'm happy to be a woman. So I'll keep working with it. We have it much easier than my parents had it, or our mothers, that they couldn't even open a bank account without a husband. So I, in some ways, I never had to face those things in the countries I've lived. Doesn't mean that it's not happening in other places, but I've never had to face that.
And what advice would you give to other women, especially new generations coming?
Just be themselves and use what they have to be themselves. But and I was talking about kind of this topic this morning with my partner that a lot of times women on TV or on the show business, they are all pro-feminist and women do what you want and all that stuff, but at the same time they're projecting an image of over-sexualization of themselves. So sometimes there is a mixed message between do whatever you want, but at the same time do what is expected of a woman to be, like that over-sexualized piece of something that you have there to look good or to cook or to have kids or to do something specific of your gender. So I don't know, I always feel that my advice for younger generations is just to be a woman, be whatever you want to be, but don't forget to respect yourself. And if you respect yourself and you treat yourself with love, then you're good.